We're all good to go. Alrighty, well, welcome to Backstage with Geoffrey Morrissey. I'm your host, Geoffrey Morrissey. We're not backstage today. We're at the Blue State Cafe. The company is pretty great, though. Joined by Norman and Raymond for Teenage Fanclub. How are you guys?
Hey, very well, Geoffrey. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that this is sort of a monster tour for you guys.
Yeah.
It's 6 weeks on the road.
Yeah, we were in Hong Kong. I think 6 weeks tomorrow we were in Hong Kong. So 6 weeks ago tomorrow, you know. So yeah, it's been a wee bit. From there we went to Japan, then we went to Australia, then we went to New Zealand, then we flew to Vancouver via LA, worked our way down the west coast, and we've been working our way across the country. So we've had sunshine, snow. 5 weeks ago we were on Bondi Beach in Australia, and you know, people are, you know, scantily clad people running in and out of the water. And yeah, and like a week ago we were in Denver, and there was, you know, 10 inches of snow on the ground. It was kind of crazy.
It's certainly racking up the airline miles. It's been a big tour because it's also your first tour without Gerard. How has that adjustment been in terms of you guys dividing the lead vocal duties? I mean, the harmonies are such a big part of your song.
Sure. Well, here's the thing. So Dave, who had played keyboards with the band in the past, is primarily a bass player. He plays bass with Bell and Sebastian, but he's been with the band for 15 years playing keyboards. So Dave moved on to bass, and it's all worked out really well. We brought in a guy called Eros Childs, who was in a band called Gorky's Zygotic Monkey. Some of your listeners may know that band. They were a Welsh band who put quite a few albums out in the 90s, and they're a great band. But Eros and myself have a band called Johnny as a kind of little side project. And so he's played on some of our previous albums, and when we were thinking of bringing someone in who could do harmonies, he fit the bill because he's really good at high harmonies. And so yeah, there was, I guess, an initial transition. We rehearsed together without Gerard and with the new lineup, and it's gone really well. We've done about 25 shows now or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we weren't sure before doing it how, you know, everyone would react to everything, but everyone's been really cool. It's all been really positive, and it's all good.
Yeah.
And we wanted we didn't want to think about, you know, replacing Jerry or something with someone. You know, we just thought, well, okay, what we're going to do now? And as Norman said, Dave moved on to bass, and we got Eros, but it's everyone. We wanted it to be natural and feel like it's a continuation of people who we've worked with, and it's all kind of. It's not like we've got someone in who were just hired in like a journeyman or something, you know. So it all feels quite natural. It's all we've all been working together for years, so there's no strangeness within the way things are now.
No, we just shuffled the pack a bit, really. And in terms of the songs, we you know, the band has made. We've been around for a long time, 30 years, unbelievably. But you know, we've made 10 albums, and also we've recorded a whole load of B-sides. So between the two of us, you know, there are over 100 songs, and it's, you know, so there's enough material. And we also had a discussion with Jerry, and we're not doing his songs. You know, it doesn't feel right to do them without him there, and so we've got lots and lots of songs. So it feels good, and it's given us a chance to maybe explore the songs that we haven't played in a long time. And we're playing songs from our first album that we would usually only ever play one song from that. And we're playing a few, so it's it's been interesting, and it's, you know, like I said, just interesting for us to just, you know, see what else we could do as a group of people and a group of musicians.
Well, it's almost like you read my mind, because I know that you guys had sort of made a conscious effort to go back through the catalog and pick up some songs that hadn't been played in a while. Walk me through that process. What were you looking for in those songs? Were there any that guys were excited about? Any that fans have been really excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are, like I said, what you do is you make an album, and you'll maybe play a few of those songs live on the tour for that album. But then when you move on to the next record, you'll maybe only a couple of those will remain as you're trying to add new songs to the set from the next record. You know, so it's so what happens is a lot of songs kind of fall by the wayside, and they just kind of disappear. And you sort of forget about them because, you know, you're not going back and listening to your records. You don't do that, right? So yeah, there are lots of things that we recently, Sony recently reissued the 5 albums that we made when we were on Creation Records, because Sony were the parent company ultimately. And so those were reissued, and in the UK we did a short tour where we played the 5 albums with over 3 nights and in consecutive order in 5 cities in the UK. So it meant that we had to learn all of the songs from those records. So that kind of, even doing that, gave us an idea of things that might work with this new lineup. Now Jerry was on that tour, and those were the last shows that he had with the band. But like I think we ran through on that. How many songs? 60, because 5 albums, 60 songs.
I think it was about 80 songs.
80 songs. So that gave us that gave us a chance to assess, songs from those records and think about things that we could use on this tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the thing is as well, I think we are still in the process of trying to go into songs from the past. We've only kind of started that, really.
Yeah.
I feel like we want to keep working on that and not get complacent. And but even songs, really well-known songs like Alcoholiday from Bandwagon-esque, we'd hardly been playing that. Now we're playing that more regularly, and things that seem like obvious things we would have been playing anyway, we kind of realised, well, we haven't really played that much.
Yeah.
We should, even without getting into things that are more obscure or whatever, there's still stuff.
So you had mentioned, Norman, that you guys did the reissue, or Sony did the reissue of the first 5 albums.
Yeah.
Was there any hesitation with that from y'all's part of doing a reissue at all? Because as you mentioned, listening back to the old music, it's not something that you do often.
Sure. No, I mean, I think we were happy that the albums would be available again on vinyl, because they'd all gone out of print. But we made sure that we worked closely with them in terms of, myself and Raymond went to Abbey Road, and which was great. Sony allowed us to remaster them, the albums at Abbey Road. But we worked very closely with the designer who was putting together the artwork, because a lot of the original artwork had been lost. So we had to re-originate it. Fortunately, Raymond had quite a few of the elements at home.
Yeah, because we got involved in the reissues only on the basis that we'd do it all, really well, and but as Norman said, all the artwork stuff had been lost. None of it existed really, so we had to redo it from the original photographs and original elements and original artwork, and thankfully we had that, or I had that, and we were able to do it. Otherwise we would just been scanning the sleeves, and we wanted it to not be that kind of thing. We wanted to do a good job on it, so we tried to do it all properly, and we're doing this with all of our other records, making sure everything's available in a respectable form and not some kind of, we didn't want to just throw it out in some kind of half-assed kind of way or whatever, so it just feels good to tidy all that stuff up and do it properly.
I mean, a couple of the albums had been licensed by other labels and released, and the artwork wasn't quite right for those. There was nothing we could do about that because it was out with our control. So we thought, okay, here's an opportunity to actually have a good quality version of this album available again. And I think with a few of them, they were getting quite pricey to pick up the originals on Discogs or whatever,
But ultimately what we want in the process of a reissue is someone just looks at it and think, yeah, it looks fine. Because it should just look the same as it was. In a way, it's a process. You can only get it wrong. You don't want, people aren't going to be blown away because the artwork looks like it did originally. We were just trying to make sure it did look the same as it did originally. But it's just, but it's just, I think hopefully people appreciate that you kind of just try to, if you're asking someone to part with their money for something, that you do actually get it right.
Well, you guys keep getting it right, too, because obviously some great reissues, but the most recent album here is great as well.
Oh, thank you, Geoffrey. That's very kind of you. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. No. And I'm going to read for our listeners who may not have been as familiar with it. I'm in Love. That's one of my favorite songs. It sounds so classic, and it feels like something that sort of only a band that has been working at their craft for a while could produce. And the chorus for that, well, it feels good with you're close to me. That's enough. That's enough. We will fade into history. I'm in love with your love.
Yeah.
And that's enough, sort of. I love that line because it points to almost the restraint that y'all have developed as songwriters, where sure we could go into this flowery tangent and all this different language, but
sure,
I know what I'm going to say and I can deliver it sort of directly. So that restraint, that clarity as songwriters, how did that sort of develop for y'all?
I think you're only ever trying to make a better album than you've made before, but songwriting is a craft, and without getting too, it's like I think so, for me with that song in particular is one of the things. It seemed to me that the sentiment was a very simple one, and therefore we should just try and put it across in a very simple way. Let's not try and overcomplicate it. Let's not overwrite the sentiment. And there's people out there. I think people can do that. It's difficult writing lyrics because it's not prose. There's meter, and you're kind of constrained by the melodic, the melody and the meter. But yeah, I think all we have ever done is try to, make as good an album as we can. But I don't think there's any formula to that. But there is a certain thing that we've been working together for so long that we are fairly intuitive in terms of what I know that if I say, for example, I write that song, I don't have to suggest to Raymond what to play on that, or to Francis, because they kind of know what to play, because the sound that we make as a group of people is intuitive for us, I think, And
I think on the songwriting front, I mean, sometimes you write some stuff and it seems quite straightforward or kind of honest or revealing of yourself, and sometimes you think, oh, that seems a bit too, but ultimately that's all you have to offer or whatever, and sometimes you just kind of show yourself, and you just kind of, ultimately, you don't want to edit or censor yourself. I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to work on these things and get it to be in something we're happy with or whatever.
Yeah.
But also I think you have to, allow yourself to do something that is honest, and not trying to be smart or clever or impressive or cut all that stuff away,
Yeah. When I was younger, we made the Bandwagon-esque album, and I think when I started, I wrote kind of little narrative stories. But as time has passed, like Raymond says, I like to just write about what I experience. It's all that I know. Now, my life isn't, very different than most people's, so maybe people will be able to pick up on what I'm singing about, because I'm writing about my life experience and relationships and how those change over the years, and and whatever. So but yeah, it's the one thing that I do know something about, my life experience, so I feel comfortable writing about it. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that too, from Bandwagon-esque. It's almost like you could see my notes, because I was going to bring up how this is so different from something than the concept.
Yeah, I think then I probably wasn't comfortable singing about myself.
Yeah.
I was young, and I kind of thought, I don't really want to reveal anything about my life, and I don't know, but as I've grown older and I've gotten older, I noticed you're just kind of trying to chronicle what's happening over the years. But of course it can change. I have written songs that have had quite abstract lyrics as well in fairly recent years. So sometimes it just feels like you want to write about yourself, but other times you will go off and write something that's a bit more tangential or whatever. It's a funny process, songwriting.
Or sometimes you have something that kind of comes to you, a line that comes to you.
Yeah.
And then initially it doesn't really make sense. You think, oh, I can't use that. But then you kind of can't get away from it, because somehow it has something that seems to go with the song, and then you kind of try and work your way around it into how to expand on that and make it, turn it into something that means something or whatever. But, anyway, sometimes that happens to me. I kind of get this thing, I think, I won't use that, I'll change that. Then I end up, I don't change it. Because somehow it has something that, but you have to build the thing around it.
I think maybe I'd like to think we've gotten better at writing and constructing songs, but I certainly feel that I've not got any better at explaining how I've written them, because it's very difficult. I've always found it very difficult to answer songs about the writing process, other than on a very basic level. I don't know why. I don't feel particularly articulate when it comes to that. My take on the process. So.
It's interesting that you say that too. From a fan's perspective, I always pictured you guys are sitting there and then some divine inspiration comes, and that's sort of where the song comes from. So any insights into songwriting processes are always interesting.
I think it's work. You put the work in and the songs will come. You have to just sit and go through the process. But you will get up in the morning sometimes, have absolutely nothing, except for a couple of hours. Okay, well, today I'm going to paint the garage or whatever, Or the next day you wake up and you kind of, there's just a little idea, and you got your phone on, and you maybe just get a few little fragments down. That's what I do. Then over time I'll maybe just go back and listen to those, and then maybe expand on them, and then maybe a little lyric idea will come along, and then then you bring it to the band and everyone plays on it, and things start to take shape at that point.
Yeah.
And just as an aside to all that, this song that's playing just now, I can remember we were recording the Howdy album in Rockfield Studios in South Wales. You playing this, one of the things we were playing in the control room
Yeah.
at the time. It just reminds me of being in the studio, like listening to this song in the background.
It's the Kinks.
There you go. That's good stuff to get some
Nothing in this
inspiration
world will
from.
stop me worrying about that girl.
I'll definitely be listening to that when we wrap this up. One of the things, and you guys alluded to this too, 30 years together in a band, it almost reminds me of a marriage of sorts, like a creative marriage. And one of those sort of jokes is, once you get 30 years into it, what more do you have to say to each other to some extent? So how do you guys continue to creatively inspire each other and sort of find new ways to explore that relationship?
Well, I think you just have to want to do it. We still enjoy making records, and we still enjoy writing. Of course, somebody is not in the band any longer, who was a big part of it for a long time. So I think because of that, we're new opportunities have kind of arisen or whatever, or we have to take the positives from that and think about what we how different it can work dynamically in the studio. But I think we're still as excited about making music, and we've never broken up. We've always seen ourselves as being a contemporary band in that sense. We've never gone out purely to rehash out, go over old ground, just play old records. We will play a few songs from the last 3 albums tonight, because we want to, because that makes us excited, and we play new songs tonight. Of course, at the same time, playing things from our previous records too. But we still feel as excited about playing our more recent things.
Also, even though we've been together a long time, we're not actually in the studio properly making records that often, really. So it's still a big deal for us when we have the opportunity to do that. So we went into the studio in Hamburg to start working on a new LP in January. So that still feels exciting to do. So it's always, it's not like our whole life is in the studio. It's still a fairly rare thing, so it's still a treat to be in that situation, doing that.
Yeah, and I sort of like what y'all just said about being a contemporary band, because I came in to contact with your catalog because I was at Newport Folk Festival, and Ben Gibbard had just had the Bandwagon-esque cover. They played December, and that was one, and I heard that, it stuck with me, and then I came into here after that and didn't even sort of go through the back catalog, so I've always encountered your band as a contemporary band for...
Yeah.
But if you guys could sort of do that with one album, take another band's album, cover it from front to back, what album would you cover?
Oh.
And it can be different for the both of you too.
Well, I think it's very difficult to do that, but I can tell you albums that we listened to. Like when we were making our first record, we liked Exile and Main Street a lot, didn't we? We were listening to that.
That'd be a hard one to cover.
Pretty tough to cover. Safe as Milk by Captain Beefheart, that's another one we liked. Or Clear Spot, we can never cover those.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What can we cover? You'd have to try and have a bit of fun with some. So maybe Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds.
There you go. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, I don't think, I can't imagine doing. I mean, I think occasionally we'll do covers and stuff, but it's kind of spur of the moment and kind of stuff. But to do a whole album is, I don't think we're going to get there.
Yeah.
What you do get though is when you cover someone's song, is you get an insight into a different way of, because everyone approaches writing music differently. It may be like chord sequences or like tempo, time signatures or whatever that are different that you can. So it's always interesting to do that because you learn something from covering someone.
And maybe we could cover the Who's Tommy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there we are.
I would listen to it, that's for sure. Now, you guys do a ton of these interviews, which I really appreciate as a journalist. What do you wish you had the chance to talk about more often when someone sits down and asks you a couple questions?
Well, that's a good question. It's one that I've never been asked before, and I'm not really quite sure how to answer it. I don't know. I mean, we never really talk about the recording process too much. About the technical aspects of making it. Probably because most people would find it really boring. But it's something that we enjoy. We're into our microphones, and we like when we go to studios. We look at the equipment they have. That's really important to us. We like to use good vintage, well-maintained equipment, good microphones. So that's the thing we could, but that would be, I guess we would, like most people would find that, insanely boring.
Yeah, there's quite a few geeky things we're into, which are kind of private. private passions, really.
Yeah. It's a bit too much esoterica. Yeah.
Well, at the risk of making those too public, when you guys do sort of go in and record a record, what is the most challenging part of that recording process, that technical side, the one thing that always seems to be coming back as a challenge?
Sure. Well, we tend to not rehearse too much before we go to the studio, so
and that's intentional?
yes, it sort of has been intentional, I suppose, over the years. We like to get it. We want to keep it as exciting and vibrant as possible. Probably one of the toughest things is settling on the right tempo for a song, because of the way we work. Now, if you tour, what happens you find is that you record, and then you go off on tour. By the time you get to the end of the tour, the songs have found their tempo, and you go back and listen to the record, they could be way faster than what you recorded. Well, that's happened a few times. So that's maybe one of the toughest things, finding the right key and finding the right tempo.
And singing lead vocals is, I suppose, in that moment, someone's in an individual place with headphones on or whatever, and kind of not necessarily under pressure, but it's a different feel than when you're all in the room together, all doing everything, So it's kind of, it's a good thing to get done, but because you care about it and doing it properly, it can just sometimes take a little bit of time, and sometimes you might go through a feeling of self-doubt in the middle of it, thinking, oh God, I don't know if this, then, it's good if other people reassure you in those moments and stuff, so I suppose that's the kind of, the thing that's most individually, because it's kind of one person doing something, and but it feels great when you get it all done, then you get harmonies on it and everything and come out. But that's,
it's a lot of fun to do. It's still really exciting. Something I should have mentioned actually when you mentioned Ben Gibber. Ben played with us in Seattle when we were out there. He came on and joined us for Everything Flows.
Nice.
One of our songs. Actually, it was Everything Flows, wasn't it? And the concept. He sang that as well.
Yeah.
He did too. Yeah. But we've known Ben for a few years. He's a good guy, and so that was a lot of fun. Anyway, as an aside.
No, of course. Well, I can't thank you both for the time. This has been, I couldn't think of two folks I'd rather get a cup of coffee with today, so I appreciate it.
Oh, it's not at all. It's a pleasure.
And I'll leave you with this. Who are you guys listening to right now? Who's been spinning in the band?
Oh, well, okay, all sorts of stuff now. I guess I have been listening to, maybe the reason I brought up Captain Beefheart is because I've been listening to a lot of those albums. I think they're really great. The Clear Spot's a really fantastic album. Contemporary bands, I live out in Canada, and I've gotten friendly with Always.
Oh yeah, they're the best.
Yeah, they're really good, and they're really nice people, and I just kind of hooked up with them. I've become pals with them, so I think I'm going to name check them. I also worked with a Norwegian band called I Was a King, who are really good. Myself and Robin Hitchcock produced an album for them a few years back, and I just produced one more recently for them, and they're really worth checking out if you have people in it, the kind of punk rock pop bands. I Was a King.
I Was a King, nice.
Yeah. It's always hard to me think, what have I been listening to? I can't remember. I think I've been listening to, and I think you have a lot as well recently, like a lot of Who stuff, which is maybe why I mentioned Tommy.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, I don't know, you have an image in your head of what the Who is, and then you go away from it, and you go back, and it's kind of different, and it's kind of richer than maybe you remember or something,
Yeah.
In terms of more contemporary stuff, I'm not really sure. Probably I suppose I like the new Wise Blood stuff.
Oh,
it's good,
she's amazing.
So I suppose I'll be looking forward to that new album when it comes out.
Well, I'm looking forward to y'all's new album that will be coming out. If you're looking for something new to listen to, Everything Is Falling Apart is by Teenage Fanclub. They are our guests today. Thank you both so much for the time.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.